All right. Hello, everybody. So, this will probably not come as a huge surprise to at least most of you, but after 10 years of having a YouTube channel, I have decided, and I'd been mulling it over, and turned out to be something that was too simple to really deserve being mulled over, to move over to Odyssey. Now, I'm still going to post videos on YouTube, but they are going to be mirrored and synced with Odyssey. My channel is getting synced right now. It looks like it might take up to a week. They have limitations on subscriber count and video views and things like that. And I have enough subscribers, although it's not that many, and enough views, although it's, again, not that many, that I do qualify for most of that. So based on my reading, they'll upload videos of up to 2 hours, which will be basically almost all my videos are shorter than that. And then from what I can tell, 400 videos, which is less than I have. I think I have 660, but that will be a big chunk, and I may be able to work on getting the rest of that. But this has been a long time coming. Yes, Drew, I did know that. You mentioned that in one of your videos, and I saw that. I was hesitating because I thought it would be difficult, and it honestly took like 10 minutes. It's going right now. I don't know how long it will take before the videos are actually there. It's syncing right now. The name of the channel there is going to be Length Unither Uncut, one word. Put a link in the comments. Oh, fuck, I can't do it in this. All right, let me go in here. I've had not a lot of problems. Look, my channel's not very big, so I haven't been getting hit with tons of stuff. But maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had a video like completely flagged and taken off. The title of the video was Holocaust Denial, and in the video, I do not deny the Holocaust. I simply say that Holocaust denial should not be a crime, and that is apparently something you're not allowed to say. However, much more recently, a good friend of mine who is looking to move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State asked me a question, and I said, oh, I've got a video on that. And the video I was referring to was a review I did on the book titled The Culture of Critique, which is about a certain minority group in the United States, and that video is gone. I had no idea it was gone, but it was taken down. It's not there anymore, and that's not okay. So I will probably re-upload that. Here's the link. So again, there's not anything there right now, but it's syncing, so stuff will pop up. I have no idea how they decide which stuff to sync first, or how that works, if it'll all come in a block or if it will come bit by bit. And if it does come by bit, if they only do 400 videos, I don't know how they're going to do it. It's just getting too, it's part of me thinks it would be it's not the end of the world if my channel gets deleted. I don't make any money off of it. I've never made any money off of it. It was signed up for monetization. I never got a payment, and it somehow got off monetization. No idea why. So it's not like I depend on it in any way. That's all I'm trying to make that point there. But that's a lot of content. I put it out there because I thought that they were good ideas, and I wanted to be involved in a dialogue. I wanted to have discussion on a whole bunch of topics, a lot of topics. As you know, most of them are libertarian oriented. A lot of them aren't. And YouTube is becoming progressively more and more difficult place to do this. And also the stuff that's on YouTube is just, I don't want to say it's bad in any objective sense, but it's not interesting. I don't care about movie clips. I don't care about the latest fashion. I don't care about seeing stuff on TV mirrored. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't want to watch TV anymore. I like the days when you could have an honest discussion about anything. And obviously with that, there were a lot of bad ideas and a lot of disgusting ideas, but you could talk about it and you could debate it. And now that's just not what YouTube is for anymore. And we can't have these discussions anymore. I'm surprised that I haven't had more taken down, especially with all the anti-circumcision stuff that I posted, which oddly enough has become basically the most popular stuff on my channel. Like of all the genres that get the most views on my channel, the circumcision stuff is the most popular. None of the libertarian videos The only libertarian videos that cracked 10,000 views or even 2,000 views are about Stefan Molyneux. Everything else is way less. So YouTube, I mean, it's been 10 years. It's been a long time, and I wasn't in the first wave. There was a whole group of YouTube libertarians. If you see the video, The Rise of the YouTube ANCAPs, there was a whole group of guys who, and I think almost all guys, maybe there was some girls in there, but almost all guys. Luke 12,000, Liberty is Not Given, Ex Omniverse, Austro-Libertarian, Studdles, Confederate Socialist. The only one in this group who's still around, and even he's not on YouTube anymore thanks to their restrictions, is Stefan Molyneux. And all those people are basically gone in terms of content creators. And I kind of came in the waning days when that was all over. Brain Police was another one. The Sauce, he seems to be back, at least temporarily. But it's just been, I mean, it's like a wasteland. And the stuff, even in my subscriptions, there's almost nothing in my subscriptions that I even want to watch. There was a period maybe 10 years ago where I watched every video on my subscription list. Everything that came up was something that I was like, I want to click on that, I want to watch. And now it's like less than 1% of my subscriptions are things I want to watch. The content creators that I liked don't create any content. There's a few exceptions. And the stuff that's out there isn't libertarian stuff at all. It's just terrible. And YouTube, I don't see it ever getting better. And if there's alternatives, I'm going to use them. So everything is going over to Odyssey at this point. It's getting synced right now. So anyone who wants to, there's a link there. Click up and go to it. I'll post more videos to that effect in the future. This is just the first heads up. Again, there's nothing on there yet. It's syncing right now. But there'll definitely be content there that's I would never post on YouTube. Now, I haven't edited myself. Did you watch That Guy T when he was around? Yeah, I did. I think I started watching him after he was already fairly well established. I think he already had over 100,000 subscribers when I first watched him. And I've actually met him before. I met him at the International Students for Liberty conference maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And, he actually watches my stuff. He knows who I am. He's commented on my videos. He was happy to meet me. So he got rid of all his stuff. It was so much more intellectually interesting and honest. And you could do these replies where people would say, does left-wing anarchism or left libertarianism, is that against capitalism or not? Do repeal? Does minarchism work? And if so, what do we use it for? Is intellectual property? Is whatever? Can there be a market for defense? And just to have those discussions and have those debates. And now that content, it's probably not fair to say it's not out there. A, I'm sure some of those videos still exist, and B, there probably is that content still creating. I mean, they're adding so many videos per day on YouTube that it's almost amazing to think that none of them are about that. But I can't find them. Even when I look for them, I can't find them. And so I don't, it doesn't matter if it's hidden out there. Like, what is your Odyssey page? Scroll up, username, it's up there. I posted it. It's the only comment that I have. I'll post it in the link of the description of this video too. This was a long time. I should have done this a while ago. The warning signs when they were taking down my Holocaust denial video. Nobody ever debates. Like, you never have people going in the comments and saying, well, you're wrong and here's why. That never happens. Or it's very rare. It's just people who flag, and the platform allows for that. And so there's no point in having any views that are contentious at all. YouTube videos about what fast food place make the best sandwiches. Yeah. I'd heard Odyssey a couple times. It's not the only alternative, and so I'm not going to say it's the best alternative, but it looks like it's a good one. And it was remarkably easy. One of my subscribers just commented, Parisia. I don't think he'll mind me saying this. He's been a subscriber for not a long time, but a couple years anyway. And he was like, I hope you you mirror this because I don't want all your videos to be gone. So I went and looked it up, and I mean, it might take a week to finish, but the process has started right now. So, and also I was at the gym today, and I just started getting tons of comments on a video I made 3 years ago, called Teen 2.0, which is a review of a book, Teen 2.0, and some men going their own way activist had, I don't know if he watched the video or not, but he said, look at this degenerate wants to be a pedophile against children, which of course is not what I say in the video. I'm very much against that in the video, but I don't know if he took the time to figure that out. And he just sicked his followers on the video. Now, it wasn't a big deal, just got a couple negative comments from people who even admit they never watched it. But it just drove home the point, it's just 3 bad apples away from getting flagged and everything getting taken down. Yeah, I saw Hammerhand, and I don't, it's whatever he wants to say that. It's I don't mind people saying negative things or jumping to stupid conclusions. They're dumb for doing it, but I don't want all my stuff to just be gone because a mob was directed at me. Now, so far, I've kind of been in this middle ground where it's not like my channel is tiny and nobody watches and there's no audience. There is, but it's a small audience. And so I think I've almost completely flown under the radar as far as, attracting that kind of attention. But it just suddenly became apparent today that could change at any moment. And in one level, it's like, oh, good, maybe they'll watch the video, maybe they'll learn something. But most of them never will. And we all know that a lot of these mobster people are just going to ban things. And, the anti-Israeli stuff, the anti-Zionism stuff, any of the questions about circumcision, that stuff, the Hezbollah will just jump on that. They've been jumping on that for years. And I was pretty pissed that, a video I made on a book, a review of a book, The Culture of Critique, which is a good book and I recommend people to read, that's just gone. It's just undone. And trying to monetize. Again, I have a day job. I don't need the income. I've never gotten any money from YouTube other than a couple live stream donations, and then when I've traveled, I've had subscribers buy me things. So I've had people. The most expensive thing I ever got was a really nice dinner in Oklahoma City 6 years ago. I was working on an oil rig there, and a couple who watched the channel said, "Hey, let's take you out," and they got me probably the best steak dinner I've ever had in my life. I was actually embarrassed by how expensive it was, but it was amazing. But that's it. I don't make money on this, but the fact that you would try and do that, and then they just, after you jump through all the hoops, do everything, and then they just cancel it without any kind of say or anything. So that's just why bother, and why risk losing everything? That's a lot. Look, I don't agree with everything I've said in all those videos, and I'm not going to say it's the most profound stuff ever, because it's not, or it's original, because I don't think I have a lot of original content. But it's important stuff, and I got on here because I wanted to talk about these issues. It wasn't enough to be a keyboard warrior. It wasn't enough to hold it in my head. I wanted to talk about it, and I thought that I had a voice that other people might value, and some people do. And so that's been great, but I don't want it all just to be taken away because of an algorithm or because of somebody who's woke, or even somebody who's not woke. I mean, the stuff that happened today are not wokesters. The stuff that happened today, which I don't want to overplay, it wasn't that big of a deal really, but they're all right-wing, anti-feminists who assume that I must be part of the gay agenda. So again, I'll post it again because people are asking. Post it again. There it is. Again, I'll put a link in the description when I'm done. Yeah, YouTube's appeal system is a giant waste of time. If it's flagged, it's gone. There's no one to talk to. There's no recourse. They're completely... And look, it's a giant company. It's got a giant amount of content. I can't imagine how they could actually police it, but then they have these policies that let stuff just get taken down. And, now I'm not one of those people. It was really hitting content creators who this was their living, and they were hurting way more than I'll ever hurt, at least financially, because if I lost my whole channel, it wouldn't do a thing to my bottom line. But I don't want all my stuff taken down. So Odyssey is like a complete copy of YouTube, only not exactly. The content's going to be there. And it's funny, when I got on there, I saw content creators that I was familiar with already just start popping up. So, yeah, this has been, I'm glad that this option is finally here. I'm hardly a trendsetter here. This stuff has been going on for a while now. It's been years in the making. And you look at other people, like one YouTuber that I still liked a lot, who is still making content, was Ryan Dawson. I don't agree with Ryan Dawson. His and I politics are not the same. We're not identical by any means, but I've always respected him. I've always respected the stuff that he made. And everything he was making was getting pulled down. And he's not even on there. So he's on brand new Tube and Odyssey and whatever else. But if he's not there, what's the point? There's not, and I just used another one, Alex Jones. I don't agree with Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is a charlatan in so many ways. He's a fearmonger, and there's a lot about him that I don't like. But he was entertaining, and not everything he said was wrong, and I would rather watch him than almost everything that's on my subscriber feed. And the other big person here, and most of I'm not a big fan of, is Stefan Molyneux. I don't like Stefan Molyneux. I think he's a complete egomaniac. I think he's a liar. I think he's petty. I think that he's got delusions of grandeur that are disgusting. But on the other hand, he can be eloquent. He has made great videos. He's made interesting videos. He resonates with a lot of people in a way that I'm not going to diminish. I only wish that I could resonate with that many people that well. It's completely absurd that he's banned. Now, maybe there's a little bit of justice there because he was DMCAing people, and even though he said there was no such thing as intellectual property, and when people made videos that made him look bad, like True Sheebs, he DMCA'd the hell out of that and said he was stopping bullying. So yeah, he's a petty hypocrite, but I would still rather he be on the platform. I would still rather he have his ability to speak, which he does, but there's no reason he shouldn't be allowed to be on YouTube saying those things. It's absolutely ridiculous that they would take him down. So, the other thing too is maybe it's me, maybe it's the algorithm, I don't know, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they like my stuff, but they don't see it anymore. They never pop it up, even though I do upload videos, more than once a week on average now, and people are just not seeing it. So I don't know if I've been shadow banned. I don't know if it's just the algorithms, right? I don't think that I would be picked out again because I'm too small, but who knows? So maybe another channel will just have better outcomes than this, because it's so weird. I started a subreddit 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, and it's more than twice as big as my YouTube channel, and I don't put any content on there hardly at all, right? So the growth on the channel has been really bad. Now, part of that's my fault, I'm sure. I don't make the best content for growth. It's too long. I have so many people tell me your stuff is too long. No one's going to click on a 45 or 50-minute video. Okay, fair enough. But that can't, I don't know if that's the only thing or not. Maybe that is the only thing and it's just me and I have to do edits and that's the only thing that people care about, I guess. But I don't know. There's plenty of people out there just talking who do pretty well. So, and I was just looking. It's just crazy what stuff sticks and what stuff doesn't. New video notifications alert gang. So let's see. Again, so I've already put the link in there. Everyone go check it out. Sign up. There'll be content. And, if you're already... 6 followers. Thanks, guys. So we're already getting people. Already getting comments. Okay, awesome. So if you are a subscriber... subscribe now, because when the stuff syncs, it may be stuff you haven't seen, because I have stuff going back 10 years, so very, very few of you will have seen all that or even most of that stuff, and there might be stuff that you would like. People do ask me questions about videos that I made, and I don't want to be like, well, if you scroll back through 800 videos you'll find it, because you probably will, but True Sheebs was a moment in YouTube history. Yeah, and there's some poetic justice to him getting banned later. I won't deny, and I won't even say that it wasn't part of me that found that hilarious and gratifying. But still, it's it was wrong. They shouldn't have banned him. They banned him for the wrong reasons, and there weren't any reasons to ban him. So to answer some questions, I'm not going to delete the YouTube channel. I'm going to keep posting on YouTube, but I'm going to post stuff that's going to be exclusive on Odyssey. That's obviously going to be more open, and we can talk about more things, especially Zionism, especially the Jews, especially circumcision, the teen stuff, probably that too. I know that's the stuff that's going to hurt me the most, probably. And that's not the hill I want to die on by any means, but I do believe in it, and I think it's true, and I think that we're engaging in a vast rights violation against 20 million Americans because they're not 18 yet, and I think that is really bad. Now, I know that people are going to turn that all kinds of ways. I'm fully aware of that, but it doesn't change what I think, and that doesn't change that I think it's an important thing. What's your YouTube channel mean? I've talked about it before. Hackham, you have to go back to find. So yeah, caught you live. Hello, Alexandros. So, YouTube is just it's just become what's the quote from The Dark Knight? You either die the hero or live long enough to become the enemy. YouTube has become that. It was this place where anyone could go and have a platform. And those early YouTube ANCAPs, they're going on there because there was no place. You could watch PBS, ABC, NBC, CNN all day, every day, and you would never see anything even remotely in the area of libertarian, let alone anarcho-capitalist, until Judge Napolitano had a show on Fox Business for all of a minute. So people went on there to make their own content, and there was a thriving community. And that was before I made videos. I was commenting on some of those videos, and then I was like, nope, I want to get in here after most of those people quit for whatever reason. Maybe consider a Telegram channel too. Could get you a lot of traffic. Consider it. Either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Cinefan, haven't you been watching my channel since you were like 16? Yeah, so I'm not on Twitter. I never got on Twitter, and I would definitely get banned on Twitter. My stuff gets posted on Twitter sometimes, but I never post it there. I'm not on there. I might consider the Telegram stuff. What about Fringe? So, yeah, changing times. It's kind of nostalgic when I go back and look at my channel. Let's see this. Library. No. Home. I still don't know how to navigate my fucking page. Here we go. It's just funny what stuff has become the biggest. Like, it doesn't make any sense. No. Content. Here we go. Sort by most popular. So, like, if I look at my most popular video, is it about libertarianism? No. Is it about circumcision? No. It's a video I made 9 years ago titled Order of the Arrow, Evil Boy Scout Cult. So I don't know how many of you ever saw that video. I was in Order of the Arrow, and it turns out Order of the Arrow is a Masonic imitation cult in the Boy Scouts. It's a very creepy organization. And I made that video, and it had about 100 views for a year, and then it just picked up, and now 42,000 is not viral, but it's had like consistent traffic ever since. Don't know why. I get comments on it every week. I've probably pissed off more Boy Scouts than anyone else in America, even though they're not even Boy Scouts now because there's girls in it, and it's technically called Girl Scouts. And then a whole slew of videos about circumcision and foreskin restoration. So number 2, how long does foreskin restoration take? 41,000 views. Foreskin restoration, 28,000 views. Then I made a video 6 years ago about zombie tools, one video only, and my face is clearly melted in that video. So it must have been right after my accident. That's why it's nostalgic to watch this, because it's like, oh yeah, 23,000. Uncut, cut, restored, one man's perspective, 22,000. That was an interview I did with a guy who got circumcised as an adult and then restored his foreskin as an older adult. And then we do the curious decline of communal showers, 21,000. And that's what my subreddit is about, communal showers. And that's got twice as many subscribers as this channel, more than that even. So then my next one is the first one that's even nominally about libertarianism, why I was right about Stefan Molyneux, 11,000. Then why my son killed himself after circumcision, 9.8 thousand. Then another random one, American accent in the northern cities vowel shift. Okay, so I made that 9 years ago. Fuck, look like a kid. And then the Venus Project cult, 9,700. So I did a whole bunch of Venus Project cult videos like 8 years ago. That was like the thing to kick in back then. And Stefan Molyneux, which is my first Stefan Molyneux video that I made after I saw him at Porkfest 9 years ago. And then I think my best satire video, The Truth Behind the Goku versus Superman Death Battle, 7 years ago, 6,600. So that's a good one if you've never seen that one. Communal showers, body image, and the coddling of the American mind. What foreskin restoration methods should you use? Circumcised man in Plato's Cave, which I think is one of my better videos, actually. Shut Up and Date Me, You Homophobic Bigot, another satire video. Should you restore your foreskin? Return of the Step-Outs. You see, there's like foreskin and Stefan Molyneux. Lament of a Wage Slave. The Rise and Fall of the YouTube ANCAPs. That's a good one. Democracy is for Retards. Okay. That's an old classic. I did a whole bunch of, way more like anarcho-syndicalists. So this is 8 years ago, right? So that's... YouTube was different back then, and there was a lot of back and forth with like left-wing people. There were a lot of socialists, anarcho-socialists, anarcho-syndicalists, and there were all these YouTube. I can't even remember their names, but there was a whole slew of them, and you'd make videos to them, and they'd make videos to you, and it was like, and same with the Venus Project people, right? As dumb as I feel a lot of them are, at least there was a dialogue. Then 4 Good Arguments for Gun Control is my biggest gun control video. It's 3,000 views. So that's not like, it's like, okay, yeah, people saw it, but like that's fewer than I have subscribers, right? So best libertarian books, Liberal Hypocrite Irabuku, which is one of my favorite videos. I think I have some friends of mine tell me they watch that to get pumped up. Like it really makes them. It's 7 years old. Liberals are stupid and arrogant. Okay. Yeah. So then it gets down like, I don't know. I probably have like, looks like maybe 50 or 60 videos with over 1,000 views, but like, that's not really that much. Fuck. It's like going back, I can tell. Gun Control Series Introduction. That's my first video 10 years ago. Fuck. I wasn't even 30 yet. It's 29. In my parents' basement. God, no beard. Fat. Those were the days. Anyway, it's kind of weird because you can tell where I lived and what I was doing. Like some of them I can tell like what oil rig I was on and what state. It's fucking weird. So, Cult of the Arrow. The Order of the Arrow. Cinefan. So you're not 16 now. You're like 23, right? That's been like 7 years. I get recommended the Order of the Arrow video all the time. That's so strange. I have no idea why. Because Boy Scouts are allowed to be mocked. It's considered fine. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the reason. But it started getting more views before all that, I think. Gotta go. I'll be touching about your channel. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for watching. Be good to hear from you. I was going to ask you how to do it, but it turned out not necessary. It's pretty easy. My feels about all the lost bad channels. The world has changed. I feel it in the water. I can tell. Okay, Galadriel. It's very, yeah. It definitely. I don't feel like a 100,000-year-old elf, but sure. I find that the videos I made that I like, other guys do not, and I'm always surprised about the ones. Yeah, it's just, and is it the algorithm, or is it just what people are into, right? Um, so I have no idea, right? I do know it seems very likely that shorter videos would get more views, but even when I've done that, it doesn't make a big difference. Um, Editing, but I'm like, what the fuck does editing do to anything? You know, let's say I take out the cut, I cut out every pause or every time I say like, or uh, that wouldn't make my ideas any better. It wouldn't make me any more articulate or less articulate. It's just a very time consuming way to put makeup on, but it doesn't change, right? You're still who you are. Um, would you ever do debates? I'd be happy to do debates, but it's just never happened. No one seriously asked me. I'll have people say you should debate X, but X never asked me to debate, right? No person, no YouTube channel. Way back in the early days when you could do reply videos, there were like especially Venus Project people, to their credit, right? They're a bunch of wacky utopian socialists, but many of them they honestly believed in their ideas and they thought that they could smoke you in a debate, which they were wrong. Whoever it was they were debating, I'm not saying just me, but if they debated Stefan Molyneux or G. Edward Griffin or whoever, but at least they would try, right? And so you could do, I remember some of my earliest videos were with a guy named Simil Chris 2, who was, saying why we needed a resource-based economy. And he make a video, you make one back. I made a couple with a left libertarian, which I don't even know what we were disagreeing about. I mean, we were both anarcho-capitalists as far as I could tell, but he didn't, he thought he wanted to debate, but, so I'm not getting, my subscribers will say, you should do this, you should do that, but these people never reach out to me and I've never heard about it. So, I'm not on the list of people to talk to, I don't think. Uh, do, 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 do. Politically Provoked will have anyone come on and debate anything, and they've gotten pretty big. Debate who? The same person or different people? People don't like hearing the truth because it makes them think. It's just easier to not think. I highly recommend people read The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. It's just one of those books that, even if it's not right about everything, which I don't think that it is, it has some very powerful, very useful insights. And one of the insights is that everyone has a logical, rational mind in there at a conscious level, but your subconscious mind, your emotional mind, is what's really driving the show. And that's something that's become even more clear to me as I've gotten into hypnosis, right? And so if your emotions tell you that X is bad, then you think X is bad, and your rational mind will just do whatever it takes to go back to that conclusion. And because we can be so logical and so intelligent, we can find a way to do it no matter what. We can rationalize anything. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and it's better to appeal to people's emotions. Now, I think making the logical empirical argument is still good. You need to do that at base. You need to have those answers, because there are some people out there who are logical and will listen, and B, if they're not emotionally invested in an issue, they will hear you out, right? If it's something they've never thought about or they don't care about, they'll listen to you because they don't have a pre-existing emotional attachment one way or the other. Now, with many issues, there's very few people in that category, right? If we're talking about abortion or gun control or racism, people are not ever neutral in those, and so that's very difficult. Please recommend another book to help us become a little bit smarter, such as The Righteous Mind. Well, I have a whole video called Best Libertarian Books, so you can watch that. And then there's another one called Best Libertarian Books 2. So I definitely recommend people watch those. Um, but there's too many to list. Azar Gott, War and Human and Civilization is great. The Bourgeoisie Dignity trilogy by Deidre McCloskey is excellent. A Farewell to Alms is excellent. Um, Power and Market is excellent. The Problem with Political Authority is a must-read, I think. Libertarianism Today by it's now 10 years old, but I think that's still a really good book by Jacob Hubert. Mises, The Last Night of Liberalism is a great book. There's a ton. It depends what you want to learn about. Let's see. Have we gone up? Oh yeah, we have. Excellent. You should definitely read Mein Kampf. It's the best book ever written, and it's the true goal of libertarians. So, yeah, The Problem with Political Authority is the best book on libertarianism ever written. I would say, well, it's hard because he's obviously drawing on other authors, people like Rothbard and Friedman and others. But yes, for the general readership, I think that's true. And he was able to synthesize all the best arguments very well, which is something that some of the original authors didn't do or couldn't do. So I think that that's probably fair. And it seemed when I read it, it's been a long time since I read it, but it seemed very accessible. Oh, that reminds me, Crisis and Leviathan by Robert Higgs, Depression, War, and Cold War, also by Robert Higgs, are two that are just amazing books. Depression, War, and Cold War also is more accessible, I think. Teen 2.0 is a good book. Teen 2.0 is a good book and not by a libertarian. But it's an excellent book, and I think also falls on the iconoclastic side. The Triumph of Conservatism by Gabriel Kolko is a great book about the truth behind the progressive movement. It's basically a corporatist movement, how regulations were created and exist to help corporations and to hurt their competition, smaller businesses. Another good one along those lines is Railroads and Regulations, also by Gabriel Kolko, and In Restraint of Trade by, I think he's dead now, but it's the guy who wrote Boundaries of Order. What's his name? He died recently. Anyway, look of In Restraint of Trade. Yeah, I mean, sadly, most people are just not into reading, and they just want to feel self-righteous and attack. When people say modern day views on libertarianism is an American spawn and that libertarianism is really socialist, what do you think? Well, I think the problem, there's definitely some truth to that for sure. However, when mid-19th century people were talking about socialism and whatnot, their concepts of left and right, they don't match super well with what we have today. So it's kind of like saying liberal because it doesn't mean the same thing. It is true that for a long time, in like the first half of the 20th century, most people who ever used the word libertarian were people who were like left-wing socialist. And if you ever heard about anarchists, for instance, an anarchist was almost always a left-wing person in the mid-20th century. So the anarchist groups in Spain were not Rothbardians. I mean, Rothbard wasn't even, he was 10 when that happened. They were anarcho-syndicalists, anarcho-socialist, things like that. But if you go back to people like Proudhon and some of these others, their ideas, or Emma Goldberg, or Emma Goldman, a couple of these others, their ideas were more, they're like stem cells, and they could be one or the other, and they don't fit nicely into either. Many of them. Now, there's obviously exceptions. Marx is a Marxist, obviously. Engels is a Marxist, and there were people back then who were. But there were a lot of people, and I'm reading a book on the or the first half of the 19th century in the United States, and there were a lot of these utopian communities, New Harmony, but there were a whole bunch. I mean, tons and tons of them, and a lot of them did use name like socialist and communitarianism and communism, but they didn't mean it in exactly the same way. Now, they didn't exactly mean libertarianism either, but I just think it's not. We're telescoping definitions across 150 or 200 years, and that's just not a really precise way to look at it. Now, I think if you're talking about the first half of the 20th century, I think it's more true, right? But look, anarcho-capitalist right-wing libertarianism has been, something of a movement since the 40s. It had precursors before that. There's threads of it. I mean, if you go back, there's so much in the, especially in the Anti-Federalists and in the American Revolution and the English Revolution and the pre-Socratics and a lot of other philosophy. Like there's definitely ideological and philosophical roots that go way, way, way back. But now, the movement as we know it today really can be traced to right after World War II. World War II is like the apogee of state power and the defeat of classical liberalism. And then from the ashes rose, Fee rose, Mises's influence, however small but deep, and then later people like Rothbard. So like American libertarianism has flourished and has become a really important movement, I think, relative to the left-wing versions of the thing. So for them to say, well, back 100 years ago, like, fucking get over it. Sorry, there's not a monopoly. there's no state of language. So, I'm happy to use the word libertarian. Butler Schaefer, that's right, Will, thank you. Butler Schaefer is the author of Boundaries of Order, which is a great book too, by the way, and I think he also wrote In Restraint of Trade, which is about the progressive era. You read Restraint of Trade, which is by a libertarian. You read The Triumph of Conservatism, which is by like a neo-Marxist left-wing guy, and they come to the same conclusion, which is a very powerful and I think almost irrefutable conclusion that goes completely against the myth that most people accept. Most people's understanding of the progressive era is defined by the jungle, which is, on top of being propaganda, fiction. Right? Upton St. Clair wrote a fictional novel. The equivalent of this would be like somebody taking The Fountainhead or Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged and saying, this is how we should view our history. Well, that would be seen as ridiculous because they're not history books. And yet, if we're talking about the jungle, it is seen that way. So the reality is almost the polar opposite of what people think it was. How do you pronounce your name? Length Unathor. Length Unathor. You got to roll the R at the end. Yeah, Lysander Spooner. No trees. Talking about books you should read. No Trees in the Constitution of No Authority. And then if you want a modern take on all that, Hologram of Liberty by Boston Tea Party is an excellent I read that first, and he quotes Spooner and several of the Anti-Federalists, especially the Federal Farmer, a lot. And so that's a book that he uses a lot of quotes, but then he weaves a very powerful narrative there. It's a very anti-Constitution. If you want to see the best takedown of the Constitution I've ever read, it's in it draws from Spooner, so you can always say Spooner's is better. Spooner is very succinct in his arguments, but Hologram of Liberty really is more comprehensive. What do you think of Harry Browne? Well, I think Harry Browne's great. He had a great voice. He was very articulate. He was very good at selling liberty, and he was, it's sad that he died. He wasn't young, but he kind of left the scene just when he could have really blown up more than he did. So somewhere, he had a radio show, and somewhere online you can find all the recordings, and I would say that they're worth listening to. There were some differences about his philosophy. He wasn't a deontologist. He didn't believe in rights, for instance, which not all libertarians do. So he was coming at it from a completely different angle than that, which is fine. And, he was the guy who could take the very hard questions. To show you his mettle and his honesty, on September 12th, 2001, he published an article to the effect that that was blowback for our foreign policy, and it was only what we should have expected, not necessarily what was right. He wasn't justifying what happened, but he was saying this is why it happened. And to do that, even to do that now is seen as unpopular, but to have done that then took a lot of guts. But it was the right thing to say, and it's sad that he died. So you're going to basically post on YouTube, but post more controversial vids on Odyssey. I think that's how it's going to pan out, but we will see. So the stuff that I post on YouTube will get synced automatically with Odyssey, and then I can post stuff directly on Odyssey that would get taken down YouTube. And there's a couple things I know I have that I'm going to post on Odyssey right just already because they've already been taken off YouTube. Sheldon Richman is a great takedown of the Constitution as well. I haven't read any of Sheldon's stuff. I keep hearing about, he wrote apparently a book called Coming to Palestine, an anti-Zionist tract that I want to read, but I haven't. Will you write a book of your own? I think that I will, but it will not be about libertarianism. Not directly, anyway. Other better writers have done that, and I don't think that there would be much reason for me to add. I don't think that I'd have much original. A couple times I thought I had original ideas, and then, a year or two later, I read those ideas in 20-year-old, Rothbard articles. So, I mean, that's not to say there's no value in still saying stuff that other people said, just maybe saying it in a different way or from a different perspective. But I just don't feel really strongly towards doing that. I want to write about stuff that hasn't really been covered yet, because there is stuff. There's stuff that I'm interested in that just, there's very little out there. And I'm daunted by figuring out what it is, but it is something that I am gradually working on, planting the seeds and gradually working towards. That's exactly right, Hackham, and I'm laying the groundwork for that, and that is a topic that has never been covered in a book, as far as I can tell. And that's astonishing when you look at what a big change has happened, how rapidly and how complete it was. And I wouldn't also surprise me if there's a market for that, because there's a lot of people who are interested but not able to talk about it. It's strangely taboo, but not clear why. It's not like the Teen 2.0 stuff is clearly taboo, and it's clear why it's taboo. You're going to get called a pedophile and whatever immediately as soon as you talk about it, even though that's not true when you're talking about teens, but whatever, the slander is going to be there. With communal showers, it's a little bit different because there isn't an explicit taboo. They're still done. People still do them. And why exactly they declined, actually, there isn't a good answer. There isn't a single answer. Nobody knows for sure. I've been looking into it now for years. I've got a subreddit dedicated to it. I find articles. I do research. And there's just, it's like a mystery. Like, you remember that, well, most of you probably too young, but there used to be a show called Unsolved Mysteries that was usually about unsolved murder mysteries and kidnappings and stuff, but I think they could do a show on the unsolved mystery why communal showers ended. Do you meditate? No, but I do self-hypnosis sometimes. So I can put myself in a trance, and I actually do that at the gym when I'm working out sometimes. I don't do it at home that often, but I don't formally meditate. I get hypnotized, which I think is a more potent altered state than meditation is, from what I can tell. So, all right, let me post the Odyssey link again. Oh shit, I can't do it there. Deny. Shit. Okay. What? Pre-workouts better. You mean taking a pre-workout supplement, or you mean meditating before you work out? Yeah, I own or inherit a communal showers group for men on Facebook, and I really enjoy sharing your videos. There's a communal shower group on Facebook? Huh, I didn't know that. Why are you so personally against the altered state of psychoactive drugs, but so pro hypnosis? Because there's no side effects, there's no pharmacology, and there's no question of dosage. And against, I don't know what you mean. I think they should all be legal. I just have not chosen to use them. What do you think about veganism? I don't agree with it. I think that it's difficult to be healthy then, although I think it is possible. Some of them do make it work. I think it would be difficult, and I'm not sold on the ethics. I just don't see, animals are prey to each other constantly, all time, every day. Any animal that we don't kill will be killed, or at least consumed when it dies by other animals. So, I don't think that there's, I get it, and I can almost respect it, but I think a lot of it is driven by emotion, and also a very detached, like when I see, there are indeed philosophical vegans who seem to have done a lot of study and who are very, very smart and very articulate, and I've seen them, but every time I have, they've struck me as people who are very, very divorced from reality when it comes to animal life on this planet. It's not like, first of all, agriculture kills a lot of animals. So there's that. And then the animals that we don't kill will be killed by other animals. And that's if they're lucky. They'll probably die horrible deaths of starvation or disease or in the elements. So, I don't know why humans are going to be held to a much higher standard. Anyway, this is the same materialists, right, who are going to say that we're just animals. Okay, fair, we are. I don't disagree. But then why is there a higher standard for us than there is for orca, right? I mean, orca are killer whales. They kill. And are they going to protest killer whales? Would they favor SeaWorld entrapping these animals, because then as long as they're there at SeaWorld, they're not out killing baby whales and baby seals, right? Doesn't matter. A lot of psychedelics don't have side effects. I do, well, they're not addictive is what I've heard. And I've heard like a lot of mushrooms, you can't get addicted. Like after you take them, you can't take them again for a while. And there's part of me that's interested in trying. There's part of me that's like a little worried. So I haven't. Hypnotic altered state, and this is something that I don't think we know for sure, but I think the most likely answer is that it's a natural state to go in. I don't think that it's a hack that is an accidental ability. Like apparently sharks have this thing where if you turn them upside down on their back, they pass out. And so killer whales have learned that if they turn a great white shark on its back, it just is immobilized, and then they can eat it at will. And we don't know, but maybe that's all hypnosis is some kind of weird hack. There's just a way that our brain can go into this altered state that makes us really, really open to suggestion, more so than normal. But my guess is that it's actually evolved for a purpose, and it seems like it's very natural. Almost everybody can do it, and almost everybody can do it easily. So there's a naturalistic fallacy there to say, well, just because it is natural doesn't mean that it's good. And I agree that it's not necessarily the case, but it seems to be something that is very, very natural. You could also argue that eating mushrooms is natural, and there is a whole idea that animals have been consuming fungus as long as there's been animals, because fungus have been around about twice as long as there's been animals, and that there's a symbiotic relationship there that is very deep. I'm open to that possibility, but it has yet to be proven or explored as far as I'm concerned. Is there a good modern book on gun debate? I remember you recommended some books a while back, but so to my knowledge, no. I don't know of a comprehensive book that, just covers quote unquote gun control as a debate. There are books that look at specific things. So Stephen Holbrook, who is he is a libertarian, but he kind of sometimes it's very interesting. He dresses in a suit, but he has this kind of left-wing past a little bit. But he wrote a very good book on gun control in the Third Reich, which I think that's actually the title of the book, Gun Control in the Third Reich. But that's getting down into the minutia of a single point, right? Because people will argue that, well, the Third Reich confiscated guns and then they killed all the Jews, and then left-wing people were like, no, that's false, that's not true. And, so he wrote a book about it, and he brings the receipts and shows the proof that, yeah, they did actually do that. They had gun confiscation that was selective. They only did it to certain groups. Anyone who was an enemy of the state, which included Jews. It also included things like communists and socialists and anarchists, and then later the more conservative elements. But it didn't include if you were in the SA or the SS or things like that. And he gets right into naming names of victims and showing when their guns were confiscated, and the letters telling them they had to turn them in, and then they turned them in, and then they went to a death camp, right? So there's stuff like that. There's books on famous cases. I've got one that I haven't read, but it's about the famous Gratz case in New York City, where a gay guy killed 3 assailants with a gun, and it was in clear violation of the gun laws in New York City. I think that's going to be one of the next books that I read, actually. But I don't know of any that synthesized all of it. Maybe I haven't looked, and Gary Kleck has written several books, but they're all about the one topic of how frequent are defensive gun uses utilized in the United States. Important topic. If you want to be conversant in the debate, that's an important book or books to read and to learn about, which, I've bought them and I've read them for that very reason, but I don't know that there are any comprehensive. John Lott has one on More Guns, Less Crime. That's probably the closest one to what you would be talking about. And another one called, I think it's Shooting Straight or Straight Shooting, which is about media bias. And he documents that very well. There's definitely media bias when it comes to gun control. But I don't know that there's a comprehensive one. Boston Tea Party, if you can find it, it's very hard to find now. Boston's Gun Bible. It's more about how to become a marksman and how to go about buying guns and stuff, but it doesn't. And he has throwaway lines in there, mocking gun control arguments, but it's not a comprehensive work on the topic. And I don't know that there is one, sadly. Seems like there should be. What do you think of Stephen P. Holbrook's book? I think he's a great author on the gun debate. You must have posted that before I said that. Yeah, I agree. His book on the Third Reich is good. His book on Switzerland is good. Target Switzerland is a very good book on that, important, but often overlooked part of history. He's gotten a lot of articles on it as well. So I think he's, one of the premier authors in that genre. Can hypnosis be used for villainous means? Do you already have to have some sort of inclination in order to be susceptible or suggestible? Yes, it can be used for villainous means. No, I mean, so suggestibility does vary across the population. It's not the same. You've got about 5 to 7% of the population that are very difficult / impossible to hypnotize. This is debated. There are people who say that they can be hypnotized, but it just is very difficult and not likely to happen with just a hypnotist. You might have to put them into solitary confinement or sensory deprivation, or maybe give them drugs. On the other hand, there's about 15 to 20% of the population that are very, very easily suggestible, and they go into a trance very easy, and they get hypnotized very easy. And then everybody else, they are hypnotizable, but it's not and it's not difficult either. I mean, when you have somebody in this middle range, you can still hypnotize them pretty easily, but there's limits to how much you can do at a given time. So if you look at hypnotic suggestions, some of them are more difficult than others. It's kind of a function of how much cognitive dissonance are you giving a person's mind. So if you give someone the suggestion that chocolate is their favorite flavor, when right now it's only their second favorite flavor, that's not a very difficult suggestion that doesn't have a lot of cognitive dissonance. And so that's something that even somebody who's not a very good subject could likely be hypnotized to think. On the other hand, if you hypnotize them to believe that you're invisible and that they can't see you, that's difficult because you're right there. The light's going to hit their eyes, and their brain has to be so suggestible that it simply omits that. And they have done this. In fact, I just watched a Stanford study where when they hypnotized people to become colorblind, they became colorblind. The parts of their brain that recognize color were switched off, and they all passed the Stroop test. So the Stroop test is a well-established phenomenon where if you have people are shown a word that has the name of a color, say the word says red, but the text is green, and they ask you, what color does this say? It's difficult because you see it says red, but the color is green, and your brain has to think. And so if you do it just black and white, like you said, just says red, blue, yellow, black, orange, people can do that very quickly. If you do it again, but now with different colors on that, it slows people down a lot and they make more mistakes. And it's called the Stroop effect. And when you hypnotize somebody and tell them that they're colorblind, boom, it's just as if they are colorblind, and it's the only known thing that can cure the Stroop effect. Now that seems like a kind of small little thing, but it shows the power of that suggestibility. So you don't have now to be in this bottom percent. That's not something you decide to do. Okay, somebody who says, I don't think that I'm hypnotizable, or I don't want to be hypnotizable, that does not put you in that 5 to 10% at the bottom. And I will say, like, half the people I hypnotize say it's not going to work on me. They say that, and I would assume believe it. It's just that people just can't imagine themselves going into that state. And then they also think that, well, I'm not a weak-willed person and I'm smart, and so it won't work on me. And that's not at all what happens. That's only one time ever has someone told me it's not going to work, and then it didn't work. Every other time it worked. And that's most of the time. Have you read The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose? No, but I've seen a lot of his videos. That Every Man Be Armed is by Stephen Holbrook. It's a great book about the history of gun rights. Yeah, and that's also a quote from Patrick Henry, if I'm not mistaken, and there's a really good documentary called In Search of the Second Amendment that I think quotes that to some length. But I have not read that, but that sounds like a great book. Do you have any reading strategies? Give yourself the time and read books that you're interested in. It seems like women are much easier to hypnotize than men. I have only hypnotized men, so I can't say. I have no idea. Men seem pretty easy. When did humans first discover hypnosis? Excellent question. It's so easy, and the barrier to entry is so low. And I will do another hypnosis video because I know it's an interesting topic, and I've been meaning to do so anyway. It's so easy that people can do it by accident. You know, I've said this before. Before I learned how to be a hypnotist, before I started hypnotizing people, I was hypnotizing people on accident. 100%. I can think of people I hypnotize in person without realizing it. At least one very, very clear example. And he was a smart person. This is a guy who was going to Cambridge. A very smart guy. He spoke 4 languages, right? Very smart guy. Completely hypnotized him by accident when we met years before I learned hypnosis. And then I hypnotized him subsequently after I did learn hypnosis. Another person that I hypnotized, I'm completely confident that I hypnotized over text many, many times. And that guy is a doctor. He went to Dartmouth and he is now a practicing MD. So it's that it's very easy. So if you look, there's a TED talk. I forget what it's called, but it's the idea is that a lot of what we consider shamanism, tribal religion, spirituality, it actually involves hypnosis, where like these medicine men or whoever, these shamans, are generating trances by a combination of chanting and altered states with drugs, or in sweat lodges or steam rooms or firelight or rhythmic sounds. And while I wouldn't say that's always the case or that every, animistic religion involves that, I think that it's very true that it does. And I've even noticed now, like reading history books about certain Native American, I remember reading about Passacommaway, who was a very famous Indian in New England. Apparently was like 7 feet tall, lived to be 100 years old, and like they know that for sure because people were seeing him for 80 years plus. And there's a lot of places in New Hampshire that are named after him. Passacommaway this, Passacommaway. There's a ski resort called Passacommaway. If you look up his Wikipedia article, one of the things is, he was supposedly this powerful medicine man who could turn snake skins into real snakes and change leaves and become invisible. And I'm not saying this is what happened, but I thought when I read that, I was like, I've done all those things. I've made people hallucinate and think that I was invisible. I've done that on several occasions. I've made people think that green leaves were red or that everything was black and white. I've made people think all kinds of stuff. And it wouldn't surprise me if what actually was happening was he was hypnotizing people. Now, modern hypnosis, as we recognize it, can be traced to Franz Mesmer. So if you ever heard the term mesmerize, it's derived from Franz Mesmer. Franz Mesmer was a Viennese hypnotist who became famous in France. Now, he didn't call it hypnosis. He called it animal magnetism. And he would do like these seances, and he would try and cure people's diseases. And if they had psychosomatic diseases, he could cure them, right? Hypnosis is effective for some things. Now, if you have syphilis, I'm sorry, you're SOL. But, if you've got other problems that are psychological, he might be able to help. What ended up happening is there was a lot of controversy of whether it worked or not. Was he a charlatan? Was this good medicine? And Louis XV of France, or maybe it was Louis XVI, created a commission that included none other than Ben Franklin, because he was, considered a rational scientist, to investigate. And they concluded that he was a charlatan. And so that kind of stamped it as being not real. And, if he's claiming it as a panacea that cures everything, then that's true. It is not real in that sense. It's not going to help you with a lot of disease. You can't heal a bone or things like that. But yeah, I think it goes way, way back though. I would suspect, in fact, I was just reading a book on the Russian Revolution, and Rasputin was a hypnotist. And I am convinced now, having read that book, that he was hypnotizing the Tsar and the Tsarina probably. I mean, it's very, very likely that he was hypnotizing the entire Tsarist royal family. I'm going to look into that more, but it seems like he was actually a hypnotist and was actually hypnotizing them, which is probably why the richest man in the world, the supreme autocrat of all the Russias, was hanging out with a fucking unwashed Siberian peasant, hooligan. Here's a good question. How do you know you're hypnotized? Could I be hypnotized right now from watching a video seen a week or a year ago? So it's hard to say until you've done it, but there are physiological things that happen, but they're vary from person to person. And so some people, I can feel when I'm hypnotized because I know when it's happened. It's never happened to you. You aren't going to necessarily know. The first time it happens, you won't recognize it because the feelings are, again, they vary. Most people will report that they feel very relaxed. Things like, I feel like I just woke up from a 500-year nap. I feel more relaxed than I ever had before. The other thing is you get really, really incredibly focused. It's not so much relaxation as you get so focused on the hypnotist. You get so focused on the hypnotist that you go into a deep trance and everything else, you go into this zone, right? So you've ever heard of the flow state, happens with athletes, it happens with musicians, or even people who work. If you have a job and you work on that job a lot, you get so focused on that one thing that you kind of zone out and let everything fade away. That's what if you ever heard of road hypnosis, that's what that is. So you're driving down the road and it's late and you're getting kind of tired, and you look at the taillights of the vehicle ahead of you or the dotted line in the middle of the road, and you just focus on that one thing so that you know if you follow that, you won't go off the road. Presumably if the car ahead of you doesn't go off the road itself, right? Which is why it's not a good thing to rely on completely. And you just zone out and focus only on that one thing. And that's going into a trance, but with a hypnotist, you're going into a trance by focusing on the hypnotist. But then what happens is your body will relax and you'll start to notice, it varies, but some people will feel tingling in their extremities, their hands, their feet, their back. Their eyes will get really heavy. Their head will feel heavy and hazy. They'll get slow. But some people get really lethargic and slow, like they're drunk, and other people get really like focused and attentive. It's just kind of all over the place. Snake charmers are kind of hypnotists. What's the best way to get started learning hypnosis? Can we become a hypnotist? Well, I recommend the book Reality is Plastic. It's an audio book. And then watching videos on how to induce somebody. Induction is the process of hypnotizing somebody, and there's quite a few good ones on there on YouTube. Especially a guy by the name of Anthony Jacquin does a really good handshake induction. So if you type up handshake induction, there's this British guy doing it. He's also the author of the book, Reality is Plastic. So I did not learn from those. I learned from a hypnotist. That's the best way to learn, is to have a hypnotist teach you out, honestly. But those books work pretty good. Do you recommend self-hypnosis as a way to improve one's life? No, I don't think there's any harm in it. I don't think self-hypnosis is particularly powerful relative to getting hypnotized by somebody else. You can go a lot deeper with somebody else. It's hard to go into a trance when you're trying to focus on getting in a trance. Maybe if I practice that more, I'd be able to say better. I do it. I can do it. I can put myself in a trance very easily, but it's not a deep trance. And there's not a lot you can do. I use it at the gym to help me focus, like before a lift. If I'm about to do a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift, I'll put myself into a trance for a few seconds, have myself focus on doing the lift right, going deep, all those things, and then do it. And I don't know if it really helps or not. It doesn't hurt, so I do it, I'm reading Reality is Plastic. I think that's what you suggested. Got any self-hypnosis book suggestions? I want to control my drinking and eating. Well, for controlling your eating, you should just get MyFitnessPal, set calorie goals, and just follow it. I don't know any books on self-hypnosis. I think... So Anthony Jacquin, there's actually two Jacquins. The son wrote Hypnosis, Reality is Plastic, and he has a father who wrote a book. I think it's called like Hypnotherapy. I believe that has a chapter on self-hypnosis, but I didn't learn it from there at all. The way I learned self-hypnosis is after I got hypnotized many, many times. Many times, I knew how it felt, and I could put myself in that headspace. One of the sayings that I've heard is that, because there's so many ways to go into a trance, right? You can go into a trance by looking at a spiral. You can go into a trance by watching a metronome, or watching taillights ahead of you, listening to music, focusing on an idea, listening to a hypnotist, looking in someone's eyes, looking at someone's finger, right? I've hypnotized a lot of guys just saying, look at my finger. And then it begins, well, wait a second, that's a lot of things. Like, what is the general rule here? One of the general rules is anything that makes you think about trance can put you into a trance. And so, like, I can just, and I know you don't know if I'm faking it or whatever, but, like, if I think about trance, you get the REM, right? And that's a good sign that you're hypnotized, right? So if you've experienced it, you can kind of put yourself there, right? But it took me, I started getting hypnotized in April of 2020, and I could do self-hypnosis probably in August of 2020. You need to watch The Cure if you haven't seen it. It's about a Japanese man who hypnotizes people to commit murders. I'm not going to watch a Japanese man. I think that would be possible. I think it would be difficult. I think it would be possible though. And the CIA did a ton of research in that with MK Ultra. That was basically the point of MK Ultra, and they claim it didn't work, and they're full of shit. I'm sure they made it work. And if you ever read the book Chaos, which the author of that did an interview on Joe Rogan, so watch that and then read the book. 100%. The CIA investigated this, and I believe it's totally possible. Not necessarily easy, not necessarily the most efficient way to go about it, not necessarily foolproof, but it definitely could work. Could you hypnotize yourself to be a better, faster reader? I don't know. Not easily. It wouldn't be as easy as like, I mean, when you're hypnotized, you're incredibly focused. So let's say that you are hypnotized and I say, okay, you're going to read that book. You're just totally focused on that book. Then you would be, but eventually you would come out of trance. And when you came out of trance, you'd just be your regular, normal amount of focus and you wouldn't read any faster. However, what could happen is I could give you the hypnotic suggestion to learn how to speed read, because speed reading is a skill that you can learn. I can hypnotize you. Look, you're going to get the speed reading book and you're going to really like reading it. And every time you read it, you're going to be really happy. And right. So like it wouldn't be as simple as like, you're a fast reader now, but I could give you suggestions to learn how to be a fast reader, if that makes sense. What other things excite you as much as hypnosis? Jiu-jitsu, definitely. Hear Joe Rogan got COVID? Nope, didn't hear that. I hope he's fine. So, all right, guys, it's getting late here. It's been an hour and 16 minutes. I'll make another video about this. But let me post one more time the link to my Odyssey channel. And some of you looks like you've already joined. It's right now syncing up with my YouTube videos. So there's nothing on there yet, but stuff should be popping up, I assume, anytime. And even if it takes a week, it'll be there, and I'll start posting more content there in the future, including stuff that I wouldn't be able to post on YouTube. So that's the main reason for this. So any last questions before we call it a day? Thanks, Pablo. Thanks for watching. All right. Well, thank you all very much, and have a great night. Goodbye.